Thinking about AI. I'm still try to think, how do you think about it, right? Because, I look at all these people, some of these smart people, right? Who use AI all the time and they say it's great and I'm just not seeing it. So what is up with this, right? Are we using different, like ChatGPT 5 is really different from ChatGPT 4 or, Google Gemini 3 is amazing, even better than ChatGPT. So I guess to start off, my questions have been how can AI help me, right? So technology is supposed to help you, right? There is many times when it actually doesn't help you and it hurts you, and people just use stuff because it's the newest, coolest thing, right? And so sometimes people are forced to use stuff like phone when paper may be better. But this is not a case. This is a case where some people use AI, some people don't. And somehow AI is supposed to be amazing, and I'm just haven't been seeing it. So for medical stuff, I realized AI is not that smart. So if you feed it the correct information, if you guide it, then it could give you the answer. But that's not really the way it works, right? If you already have the solution and you're just testing and see whether AI can get there, that's not a real use case scenario, right? Like they're saying for ADI, they could diagnose pneumonia better than a radiologist. Sure, but can diagnose everything on the image if you're not giving any history, any information, just told what is going on, right? Because oftentimes the radiologist is given no information. For example, the ED says fever. Patient may not have a fever. They just have a standard templated thing because they require some word in there to pass the computer checks. So the question is, what is AI good at? Someone said it's good at coming up with information. Well, there's a lot of information online. So are you saying it can summarize it, it can conclude, it can quickly process it? Because not all information is created equal. When I look for something, I process it, right? So, first of all, there's an idea of how up to date it is. And that's the thing. I think most AI programs, and I could be wrong, are just simply not up to date. Their information could be old, or they could rely on information put out by websites that is old, right? So the website may say something like, oh, flights from this or that, but the flights are not this or that anymore. That was a day ago. Or if you're looking at something that price changes quickly, like gold, it may be an old price, and now the price has jumped, right? So that's an issue. That's one scenario when I was using AI. I was like, hey, this is a pretty simple task. It's just manual labor, if I will, right? Just me chugging away, plugging some airports in. I just want you to find me the cheapest flights. And here's the issue: Google Flights already does some of that. But if I want to give it more parameters or open it up for flexibility, it can't do that. It could look at, so let's say I'm trying to go to the Middle East. Well, one option is I fly from here, the US, to the Middle East directly. They may have connections, but it's just all one fare booked through one website, one carrier, if you will. Another option is I fly to Europe and then book a separate ticket to the Middle East. That opens up an extremely, extremely large amount of options. Many search engines like Google cannot process destinations, origins rather, from different countries. So if Google is looking at, okay, I want to fly to Asia, it can process Japan, Korea, Singapore, what have you, but it can't say from different countries. I can't look for flights from both LA and Vancouver and Mexico City because the fare rules change depending on the origin. So it can't do that. But that's an old-fashioned search engine. AI should be able to do that, right? Should be able to do whatever a human could do, right? However, it requires a bit of work, right? It's the first two conversions, which should be relatively simple, currency conversions. The second thing is, when you look at flights, right, at least for me, you get a sense of fares, right? So Google gives you cheap fares. Okay, good. From LA to somewhere is cheap. Okay, that's good. So let me look. There's possible options. There's different dates. Many cities have different airports. Let's look at these combinations and see what works out to be the best, right? My dates are flexible. Google Flights doesn't give you that flexibility. I could leave this or that day. I could return this or that day. Google can't figure out I need a return to pick up my sister-in-law on Monday. So you can either give me back the night before. The day of is fine if you give me back to that airport. If not, I can't make it to that airport in time because there's traffic in LA. Google Flights can't process all that. Can AI? Well, no, because it can't even get the basics correct. It can't even find the flight that I found that's cheap. It simply is idiotic. I use ChatGPT, the free version. Maybe the other thing is better, but I haven't tried it. But I find that's an issue, right? Trust but verify is something I learned very early on in my training. Most AI does nothing of that sort. And that's because AI is energy intensive, time intensive. That time is spent with lots of number crunching in the background, or AI processing, or whatever you will. So it doesn't give it to you for free, at least ChatGPT, a free version. Often saying, what about this? Do you want me to do this? Google does the same for their version that's free for Gemini. And so if I can't even trust it to find the best deals that are easily searchable, right? How can I trust it to do more advanced stuff? That's my question. When we talk about medical stuff, there's some critical thinking. And that's where people rave about Gemini 3. It thinks well. But maybe we have different definitions of critical thinking. Maybe we have different definitions of error rates. And that's what I wonder about these famous people. NVIDIA CEO, Jensen Huang, Salesforce, Benioff. They say AI is great, but great for what? Is it good if it's 80% right? 90%? 60%? How much accuracy do you really need? And for me, in the medical field, I need a lot. I need to know a lot. I don't want stupid statements, right? And the problem is, so much information you have to realize could be wrong. It's information presented. We have to see how was it determined what exactly they did, whether it's collected properly. Just a simple example from the few days I've been working in the hospital. Ambulation. Oftentimes we ambulate patients to see how much oxygen they need. They're fine when they're resting, not doing anything, but when they're walking, their oxygen drops. And that's a bad sign. There's something wrong. It's very common though. And we just figure out, okay, well, we got to make sure your drops aren't too bad. The nurse yesterday said the patient went down to 89%, not bad for a lady who has lots of lung disease. But then you realize, wait a minute. I talked to a lady and she said she didn't walk. What exactly did the nurse measure? She went to the bathroom, which is literally a few steps in the hospital room. So what did this nurse measure? And later the nurse came in and said, what did you do to walk trial? She's like, oh, just her getting up and walking to the bathroom. That's not an ambulation trial. I thought that would be obvious. Today the nurse was saying that the heparin, it was stopped. Should you give the injection? Huh? The patient's on IV heparin. It's supposed to stop tomorrow morning. She said, oh, it's IV. They changed it. Like, well, it was never sub-Q. I don't know where he got that from. Her information is wrong. I don't know what she was reading. But you have to realize all these things because they matter. I saw in clinic a patient who had bruised. This was already a week or two ago, all resolved by the time I saw him. I was just curious why he bruised. Was he taking aspirin and Plavix together? See, it says Plavix, that's a prescription medication, but aspirin people just buy over the counter. They just eat it. So you have to ask him specifically, is he taking it? It's not in a medication reconciliation. It's not listed anywhere. But yes, I asked specifically, and he was taking it along with the Plavix. There you got it. Wasn't documented, but doesn't mean the patient wasn't taking it. That's the thing, right? There's so much detail in information collecting itself, right? Like labs. Sometimes things are off. Like, I don't know if this is real or not. Maybe it's dilutional. Maybe then it was drawn with, the IV fluid running nearby. There's a lot of different factors. A lot of times you repeat it before you conclude it's real. But that's the thing. Information itself is not black and white. And then you get to the internet where there's lots of wrong information. Just because somebody proclaims something on a website, that has nothing to do with whether it's correct. Does ChatGPT care? Where does it get its knowledge? Random websites, Reddit, where a lot of stuff is just simply wrong, right? I forgot what comment somebody said the other day that was just wrong. But here's the deal. Maybe it's one of those things like being a CEO. You just got so many people you got to rely on who may not do a good job, but that's the way you have to do to expand. I remember this show I was watching about cars and, selling expensive custom cars in LA. And this lady was asking this guy who she delivered a car to, how does he expand? How does he get good, high quality people? She's trying to interview people and they're just horrible. He says, you just do. I don't think she really got his point, but his point is you just got to get people. Like some of them aren't going to be great, but that's just life if you want to expand. You lose more precise control, but you could potentially do more. Sometimes you'll have wrong information, and that's just life. And I feel that's the thing I'm thinking. Maybe that's a better way of viewing AI. It's really stupid. There's a lot of stuff bad. But maybe if I don't care that much, I could use AI. It could help me out a little bit, do some manual labor for me online, shall we say. Is that what AI is nowadays? Is that the proper use case scenario?